The weary traveler draws close to the end of the path.
We have never had it so good.
All of this just works.
We are selling tea to China.
You did not have to redeem this, ma'am!
Out with them, forget about them.
Your broadcast is very biased. You've written a lot of ridiculous articles, so I would encourage you to be more journalistic and have more integrity.
Socialism is when the government does stuff.
Hello everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Longhouse, the weekly show for the sensible centrist. With me, as always, is my co-host Ludwig Path. How are you doing?
Hey, I'm doing great. It's a wonderful autumn evening here. Hope everybody's enjoying the weather. It's just suitingly, I think the Earth is heating up so that it's not too cold. It's still aesthetic outside, and aside from a little of oncoming sniffles, I'm doing fantastic.
That's great to hear. Well, the evenings and the mornings are quite cold. I like it though when you get the early autumn, like the smell of the evenings and the mornings. It's pretty good. But the days are warm still. We're lucky.
Yes, I just thought this summer was just a little bit too hot for my liking, even up here in the north. I don't know how you felt.
Well, I live in the south, so my summer, like all the weather I get is going to be more like mellowed out in every aspect. So the summer has been great here. It's always the case in places like Oslo, where like if you live in any sort of like valley in Norway, you get the extremes, right?
Yeah, exactly.
All right, so today we have a returning feature of the wheel. We have quite a bit different topics here, but some of them aren't very long. So I think we'll just get the spinning going, if that pleases everyone in the chat. Hopefully we'll get something not too heavy as we sort of wind up the stream here. All right, back to the wheel. Let's spin it. See what we get as our first topic. we actually got to the sloppiest of topics. And it's not really even something like, I don't even have an article. I just have a tweet. And there's some sort of lawsuit between Ken Zones and Brigitte Macron over whether or not she is a woman, which is a sort of favorite pastime of the online right, or I guess sections of the online right, to post about how Brigitte Macron is a man. Cyber Ninja Zero asks if this counts as the weekly woman moment. I think it will have to, yeah. Now, in this lawsuit, the ongoing court case, allegedly, Brigitte Macron has provided photo evidence confirming that she is a woman. So we can all sort of put our pitchforks down, I guess. It turns out Brigitte Macron is a woman. Now, it is still weird, the age gap between her and Emmanuel Macron. But that's just, French isms. There was one funny post about, this, providing photographic evidence that she's a woman, and it's just like a scuffed hubcap.
Oh well.
That's a funny edit.
I read that Candace and her lawyers contested the evidence. So it'd
they
be
did.
funny to be a fly on the wall in that court case. It's like you
I
have
would
to
assume
sit and
she's
review the
providing some
pictures.
sort of like birth certificate, right? Like as at least a first. I wouldn't, go with the nudes right away in the court case. But we'll see how things.
I didn't see any specifics. I've seen the tweets and the headlines. I never saw any explanation that was thorough and like what exactly the photo evidence was. So my mind just went to like this is some anatomy stuff that just has to be reviewed by the judges or something.
Sure.
So, but yeah, they seem to be quite serious.
You could just X-ray her, and you could look at like the pelvic shape, right?
They talk about like they want the DNA evidence apparently. So, and I mean, if you're like hardcore Candace fan, you're not going to settle for the photo evidence anyway, right? Even though it's like nude photos, because that can be AI or like it's surgery or whatever. It's a confusing world, right? You had Olympic case with the female boxer, right? That was removed and then taken back on again, in terms of like they thought it was a man and it wasn't a man, and there was some really Iman Khalif or whatever. It was like some really complicated case with sexual morphology and like she was kind of born a man but not really. But I don't think this is
those
the case cases exist.
But I don't think this is the case with Macron, right? I mean, it might be, but I don't think this is the case.
No, I mean, I think they wouldn't be pushing on this court case so heavily if they weren't quite sure that they have the evidence to back this up. I mean, it sort of falls on its ass if it's like just on the first level, if they couldn't prove within the court of law that she is a woman.
Yeah.
Even within conservative American standards of that term. So, I mean, the only question with this court case is like whether it qualifies within the American definition of defamation. That's the complicated thing here. It's like Candace escape hatch is to basically claim she's retarded. That's what's going to save her from this. It's to say that like she legitimately believed she was a woman. No, sorry, she's a man, right? And like full, in good faith, completely honestly, actually believed that, and she wasn't just grifting off that stuff for whatever reason. That's what they have to prove to get the settlement. Otherwise, it's not a good case. It's not easy to win defamation lawsuits in the United States. So there's that, and if they don't win it on some, on the reason that it's like, well, she actually believed it, and then Candace wins in a sense. She keeps her money, and her fans will settle for it. Like this is at least my impression of the of the audience of people. Yeah,
thing to stake basically her entire reputation on, considering the position Candace is in now. Why not just play it safe, right? And just, ride the wave, essentially.
Yeah, I don't know what is like the strategic chess move at this point. Would it be to just give them some money, try to get out of it? Do you try to play the...
That's the other thing. I'm going to say I'm not hugely educated on this topic, but what is the implication if she is a man? Like, if that can be proven, does that mean that, Pizzagate was real? Is that it? Like, why are we doing this?
Well, yeah, no, I think the Candace stuff is really reachy, but I don't know what do we get out of her being a man exactly? It's
I mean, if anyone in the chat knows the logic or the reasoning here, please enlighten us, because I haven't been paying attention, honestly. All right. In the meantime, we can go on.
You get discredit Macron, so they can go from 1% approval rating to 0% or something. I guess that's the
he's not doing so
tactical
hot right
gambit.
The French Parliament is, as usual, on the verge of collapse. Let's see here. The only thing that changes if she's a man is that Macron was groomed by an older man instead of an older woman. Yeah, exactly. All right. Yeah, so for the love of the game, that's why we're doing it. Cybernetics here asks, the boxer girl was intersex. Yeah, it was one of those things where there are like a very small subset of people who are born intersex, and then they basically quote unquote choose the outcome gender at birth or something. You have to do some surgery, but this can mess with your hormone levels. So this is what sort of caught that boxer girl, I think, was that she was sort of like reporting as a man in like blood tests, but have been living her entire life, and in terms of like visual biology was a woman, albeit a very manly woman. So it was one of those like freak situations, which of course the left tend to use to justify everything else, essentially.
Yeah, this gender nonsense, but this actually was one of those cases, right? One of the House MD episodes.
Yeah, I think that is literally a House MD episode. I seem to remember that. Okay, let's go back to the wheel. Anton Lundberg asks if this is about the autism announcement. We will talk about the autism announcement. It is on the wheel. If we don't get to it by Lady Luck, I think we'll have to intervene and talk about it. But for now, we'll go where fate decrees. The wheel of pain, as Leo Morales says. We'll see what the next topic is. And we got the autism announcement, so there you go. You're right on time, Anton Lundberg. Let's have a look at this. I have a Nature article here. We might not spend the entire article or read the entire article. It might get a bit wordy, but it's a nice summation of the situation here. Trump links autism and Tylenol. Is there any truth to it? During an announcement on Monday, the US president repeatedly advised people don't take Tylenol, but scientists say that strong evidence between the medication and autism is lacking. The painkiller acetaminophen, or paracetamol, which is what I know it as, is one of the most widely taken drugs during pregnancy, used by roughly half of all pregnant people worldwide. Pregnant women, I guess. Canary there.
Woke opinion discarded.
Opinion discarded. But today, the U.S. Food and Drug Administration, the FDA, announced that it would slap a warning label on the drug, citing a possible association between autism in children and the use of acetaminophen, also called Tylenol in the United States, during the pregnancy. U.S. President Donald Trump, however, was not as nuanced in his language. Well, when is he ever? Don't take Tylenol, he said repeatedly in a widely anticipated announcement about autism. Fight like hell not to take it, he said. Autistic people show differences in social communication and interaction, and over the past few decades, the reported prevalence of the developmental condition has risen in some countries. But many researchers who study autism caution that there are insufficient data to link it with acetaminophen, and that focusing on this is merely a distraction. Quote, there is no definitive evidence to suggest that paracetamol use in mothers is a cause of autism. And when you see any associations, they are very, very small, says James Cusack, Chief Executive of Autistica, a charity for autism research and campaigning in London, who is himself autistic. At the heart of this is people trying to look for simple answers to complex problems. When like the autism guy tells you that he haven't found a link, just saying. Like the guy who is autistic and really cares about this specific thing. I don't know. He might be, low on the spectrum, as it were. At today's announcement, U.S. Health Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. acknowledged that autism have many possible causes. FDA Commissioner Martin McCary noted that in some cases, insufficient transport of the nutrient folate into the brain has been linked with traits common in autism. The FDA announced today that it would initiate approval of a form of folate called leucovorin, for people with low levels of the vitamin in the fluid surrounding the brain and spinal cord. But Kennedy, a longtime anti-vaccine advocate, and Trump focused their attention on two other factors they said would be linked to autism: acetaminophen and vaccines. Decades of research have not yet uncovered a reproducible link between vaccines and autism. Quote, "The evidence does not support a causal link between acetaminophen or vaccines and autism," says Sura Alwan, a clinical treatologist of the University of British Columbia in Vancouver, Canada, and executive of the PeerNet Society, a non-profit organization advocating for maternal fetal health and research. Suggesting otherwise may fuel misinformation and undermine confidence in safe treatments and immunizations. Now, I was saying, Luxer beat me to it here. Autistica Astartes is a very, very good. And Anton Lundberg says this is bad news for Paradox Games. That's true. That's something I wanted to talk about because, I mean, of course, Twitter always brings out the crazies, and some libs have been taking Tylenol to own the cons, right? And that's just as stupid as taking ivermectin to own the libs, I think. So that's stupid. But a lot of people also have been sort of like advocating for like, no, we need autism to build the Third Reich or whatever, right? But I think, generally, I mean, you want some autism in your society, but generally you don't really want autism because autism, like 9 times out of 10, autism in a person isn't very useful, right?
Yeah, no, it's a very broad diagnostic criteria. Where it's like Elon Musk is on one end of it, and you have some retard who can't make eye contact on the other end. Both of them can't make eye contact, but at least one of them is very high functioning, and the other one, is probably not. So it's a quite broad spectrum of issues. But with this kind of stuff, you covered like the media cycle. It's like you take paracetamol to own the cons or whatever. I mean, I think I read some tweet about it, like where he said like paracetamol is this pill you take when you have a headache and then nothing happens. That's kind of how I feel about it, to be honest. I mean, it isn't even an anti-inflammatory medication. It apparently just sort of has some kind of like pain inhibitor effect in the brain, which makes you.
It also reduces the fever slightly, right?
Well, not really. You feel less feverish, but it's ibuprofen, right? That actually reduces.
Oh yeah, that's right. Ibuprofen is not allowed to take.
Ibuprofen has like this anti-inflammatory effect in it, but paracetamol doesn't. It just makes you feel less pain if you have fevers, but it doesn't actually bring the fever down, as far as I understand. And like I just don't understand like the purpose behind this. You could just chalk this up to just Trump shenanigans or something RFK Jr. put them up to. I have no clue exactly. Like they were building this stuff up for weeks. They're going to have this huge autism announcement. But they found the cause for video. We found it, guys. Funny. I mean, I think people are. You stop. You can stop taking paracetamol or whatever, and nothing happens. I think it's gonna be. I'll say this. Looking at the numbers we got when Mrs. Walrus was pregnant, if you're worried about autism in your kids, seemingly the best thing you can do is have kids before 35, because after that you're like 1.5 times more likely or something to have kids with autism, and that just becomes stronger and stronger the older the mother gets. Yes, so
I mean, look at Chris Chan, right?
Perfect. No, I mean that's like in my mind the causes of main causes of increased autism is just over diagnostics would be one, because like the criteria is so broad, and it's like some places you have these perverse incentives, or schools get more money if they have more autistic kids or whatever, so you have an incentive to just diagnose as many as possible, even though it might be totally irrelevant to the case. And as you mentioned, old mothers. And the third one is like it's fertility treatments. which is correlated very strongly with old mothers, right? So people who use IVF, for example, in vitro fertilization, artificially fertilized eggs, they have a much higher likelihood of getting autistic kids. At least that's what I've been told by people who administer these treatments. I mean, and a lot of people are using it, especially like couples, say like middle-class couples who wait until after 30 to have kids. And, they use fertility treatments because they struggle to conceive naturally. Like, I mean, it's funny at my workplace, right? It is the sort of like middle-class office job. And I'm just kind of stunned at how many of these parents who have twins, right? Because I think the odds of having twins naturally, it's like 0.3% or something. It's really, really low. But then it's like every other parent has twins there, and you just know it's because they've been using IVF treatments to have this happen, because I think it increases the odds to maybe like 10 or something. I don't have the number in my head, but reasonably
the classic
high.
one is like you have 2 kids, you want 3, and by the time you want 3, you're so old that you have to do IVF, and then you get twins, right?
Yeah. Well, I mean, with IVF, it's typically they just they fertilize as many eggs as they can, and they just sort of, okay, we're just going to try. We just throw everything at the wall, and we hope that some of them stick, and sometimes 1 sticks, and sometimes 2, or sometimes 3. So
yeah. So don't wait, guys.
Well, it's easy to say that, right? But there are reasons that people are waiting, and some of them are good reasons. But if you want to kind of optimize for low autism, then I guess younger mothers.
I will say though that just in terms of like energy levels, with dealing with baby walrus now, I can't imagine having to deal with this in but being 10 years older, right?
At the same time, it's like having a kind of safety net, or a job that is flexible or something, or
sure,
like
but
having your life in order does also help, right? If you're a student or something, and like you could have the kids earlier, but you're in the kind of shit situation in general.
Oh yeah, Anton Lundberg says old fathers as well. Yeah, old fathers is also a thing. How strong are the data connecting autism and acetaminophen during pregnancy? Scientists say that the most robust research has found no link. Quote, the better controlled studies are less likely to find even a small risk, says Helen Tager-Flesberg, a psychologist who studies autism at Boston University in Massachusetts. And even then, what we're talking about is a minor association. We do not think that taking acetaminophen is in any way contributing to actually causing autism. It's apparently difficult, according to someone in Stockholm. He's the co-author of what might be this biggest study on the link. The medication is available over the counter, so a lot of usage is not recorded in medical databases. So it's a self-report system, which can be unreliable. And you could say that, I think there's data saying that Americans use drugs more than Europeans do, right?
I have no doubt in my mind.
Not just like they take more drugs, but like when they take a Tylenol, they end up taking more, bigger doses, or they take them for longer before they stop, right, than a European. I was talking with some friends about this, and one of them is dating a woman from the UK or from England, and she has apparently said like, oh, that's why I thought Norwegians were just like that, but I guess it's paracetamol, she said jokingly, because like every time something is wrong with you, the doctor says, have you tried taking a paracetamol and waiting 3 days, right? Which is like, that solves 90% of the problems, instead of just taking more drug. Well, Craig says, is American drug more powerful? I'm not sure in terms of like Tylenol specifically though. Because if Tylenol is just paracetamol, then taking 1 500 milligram of that should be the same as taking 1 500 milligram in the EU. But again, they're saying acetaminophen, which might be something different than specifically paracetamol. I'm not sort of educated on that.
No, well, it is just generic names for the same thing, but I'm not sure exactly how much you get out of compounding dosages. But yeah, generally, also in my experience, just living in the United States, like the stuff that you get even over the counter there, it really packs. Like just the nasal spray I got once
Sure, yeah.
was like this is a really heavy shit. This is
Yeah,
more
I remember
than
my
I get
dad
in
once
Europe.
brought like NyQuil home from America, and you take that stuff and you're out for like 2 days, right? You just because there's some like sleeping pills in that as well, and you just sleep for like 48 hours. That's like one of the scarier drugs I've ever taken, and you can just get that over the counter. So yeah, let's see here. Confounding factors are an even bigger problem. I guess compounding factors is what they're looking for. Many pregnant people who take paracetamol have health problems, such as an infection or underlying condition. Any apparent link between acetaminophen and autism might therefore be explained by those other health factors. Maybe it is confounding rather than the drug itself. Scientists try to adjust for this in their studies, but it's rarely sufficient, according to Alquist. This is one reason why studies looking for a link have produced conflicting results. So it's very hard to say it definitely if there is a link.
It's simply said, if you're more dysgenic or your health is bad, then you take more painkillers usually.
Yeah. Again, age, might crop up again, right? There.
Yeah, that's too.
The study showed that around 1.42% of children exposed to acetaminophen during pregnancy were autistic, compared to 1.33% of children who were not exposed. Again, I'm not sure if this is self-reported, and it's also not saying anything about the amount of paracetamol or acetaminophen, right? Like if, let's say, when my wife was pregnant with baby Walrus, let's say at some point she had like a migraine, so she takes a paracetamol, and that happens twice during the pregnancy. Like, is that what we're studying here, or are we studying people who, again, regularly have to use it because of health factors, right? It gets very complicated very quickly.
Yeah, it would just be insane if like you take 2 paracetamols in 9 months and this like makes your baby autistic. I hope that's not what they're suggesting, but I don't put that beyond them.
Probably not. It seemed that, to be fair, Mr. RFK Jr. Is a bit more nuanced in his reporting, and Trump sort of does what he does and takes the highlights and says, "Don't take the paracetamols," right? Don't take Tylenol. The team has also compared pairs of siblings born of the same mother, in which one had been exposed to acetaminophen and one not. They share half of their genome, a similar upbringing, and maternal health, so differences in autism more likely to be during the drug. Researchers found no association between acetaminophen and autism, which supports the idea that links found in other studies could be explained by confounding factors. So, I mean, we're just back to it's too complicated to say, honestly. And
yeah, they brought out the Amish point as well. I thought that was pretty funny. That there's no Amish autists.
There are literally no Amish autists. All right, there's more, but it's a paywall, and I'm not signing in with whatever this is. So I don't know. If paracetamol is the cause of the autism, then it's been doing us here in the Nordics very well. We rely on that Nordic autism to get by, so we're just going to have to continue taking it.
But I think I think paracetamol has been available in like most developed countries maybe since the 60s or something. So it's been a fixture, I think, for a very long time. And I would still be really surprised if that has any lasting effect. Not recommending you spam it like these TikTok women do, of course.
No. Leo Borealis says, I don't know, I've seen them move barns. That looks like peak autism to me.
Yeah, I mean, some people have made that point. You just look at these guys, like the fucking neckbeards, and they are literal autism.
All right, let's head back to the old wheel and We'll spin it again, and if we don't get the grenades in Oslo, we'll do that next after whatever we get now. Let's see here. The Macron walk. Yeah, this will take a couple of minutes, so that's fine. Before we do that, Augustus Kamarovsky says, "Good evening. The Latvian government is collapsing because the party who was key to ratifying the Istanbul Convention has turned cloak again. Peak Prague seeth in Baltoid Sitter." Interesting. Is it collapsing in the terms of like there's just going to be a new parliament? Or are we talking like it's all going to shit? You can answer that while we look up the... here we go. The Macron walk. So, the UN had a meeting in New York, and of course, that meant that a lot of state heads took the opportunity to meet with President Donald Trump. And on his way there, he got stopped by the US president's, like Trump's motorcade, because of course when the president's motorcade comes around, they basically shut down everything unless you're in Washington DC, in which they've sort of like they've solved that stuff, so they can basically just shut off parts of the city when it rolls by and everything else can keep going, which meant that Macron was basically left on the sidewalk, unable to be even escorted by the police. He called up Trump on his phone and asked him to help him, to which Trump said that he wasn't able to help, which I actually personally, I believe him. I don't think Trump has anything to do with this. This is, like a silo unto itself in the White House sort of staff, right? The Secret Service stuff just sort of happens outside of Trump's control in that sense, which meant that Macron had to, well, according to the article, walk half an hour by foot through New York with his entourage and his security people after his speech to the United Nations on recognizing Palestine as a state. Video footage shows him getting out of his car to talk to police officers after they stop his vehicle to make way for the expected arrival of the motorcade of Donald Trump, the US president. The footage, which was captured by a reporter on social media outlet Brut, appears to show the French president saying he needs to get to his country's consulate. "I'm sorry, President. I'm really sorry. Everything has been frozen. There's a motorcade coming right now," an officer told Macron. The president then looks out over the empty street and replies, "Well, if you don't see it, let me cross. I'll negotiate with you." Macron, who remains stuck behind a metal barrier, takes out his phone and appears to call Donald Trump directly. Leaning on the barrier, he says laughingly, "How are you? Guess what? I'm waiting in the street because everything is frozen for you." It's a real funny moment. Macron later appears to be allowed through on foot, but not in his car. Still on his phone, he proceeds to stride off down the street past shoppers and pedestrians. The reporter from Brut said Macron walked for about 30 minutes with his security detail, and he stopped and posed with passerbys who asked for photographs, including one encounter with a man who kissed him on the forehead. Is this in the video? Hang on.
Who's this?
I'm gonna not put on sound because it might get me on copyright or something. Let's jump by a little bit. Yeah, now he calls Trump.
Yes.
We don't get to see him. Get kissed on the forehead. Quote, "The time has come to end the war in Gaza, the massacres and the death," Macron had said during his opening speech to a special summit at the UN on Monday evening. Quote, "The time has come to do justice for the Palestinian people, and thus to recognize the state of Palestine in Gaza, the West Bank, and Jerusalem." Yeah, a lot of countries are pushing for this now.
Yeah, it's after it doesn't matter anymore. They've collectively got together to help. But I guess New York is the most, at least I've read, it's the most walkable city in the United States. So I guess that's in his favor. But if I were him, I would be afraid that he would be egged by Orthodox Jews climbing up through the sewer system or something after acknowledging Palestine. So.
Announcing France's official recognition of Palestine, the president set out a plan for a UN-mandated international stabilization force in post-war Gaza that is expected to find support in many countries, but not in Israel or the US. Which is interesting because, in a weird way, you're essentially opening up to like a mini Cold War with the US. I know it's not that, but essentially, if you're putting troops on the ground in, Palestine, Gaza, as it becomes, to prevent Israel from doing any bullshit, you're sort of sliding in. It's the tiniest dagger into the side of the U.S., but it's still a dagger, right?
Yeah, I mean, nothing ever happens, as they say. It's in some sense you sort of you appreciate that they acknowledge Palestine or whatever, but it's so it rings very empty unless they're willing to actually put some troops on there, dedicate some resources to it. I love these kind of acknowledgements. The more time passes, the further we get away from the post-war consensus, the more hollow these kind of like UN acknowledgements of this or that area.
Yeah, exactly.
We're in a world where like nobody gives a shit. The only thing that matters is taking action on things, and people want to see you take action. People might get hurt, stuff will be broken, but that's what people crave now. And there's enough talk.
Leo Borrell says, "Walrus, be careful with videos. Remember the mushroom incident." Well, that was on Twitter. And Twitter, as we know, is a pornography site. So I'm not scared on The Guardian. Maybe I should be, but I'm not. So that was the funny little moment with Macron here. Nothing more special than that, I think. Augustus Kamrowski says, basically the previous coalition, the neo-libs, nationalists, and conservatives, collapsed over the presidential election, and one of the supposedly right-wing parties, the Farmers' Union, turned cloak. Part of this was ratifying the Istanbul. The coalition was them, neo-libs, and progs, but now, since the elections are coming and everyone hates this coalition, they have voted to withdraw. The PM has called this a breach of the coalition deal. And ironically enough, violence statistics have slightly rose since we signed it. So there's going to be a re-election then, I guess. Or there is an election coming up. So does that mean there's like room for similar sort of like right-wing movements as we've seen other places in the EU, I guess?
Well, it looks like they were a little bit tending on the right already. I'm not really read up on Baltics politics at all. It sounds like it would be an interesting episode, perhaps.
Maybe
we could bring on an expert to explain. Even I had to like read up on the Istanbul Agreement, if that's what he was talking about.
Yeah.
Or was it something else? Because let's see here. I'm just reading the Council of Europe Convention on Preventing and Combating Women Against Violence, Violence Against Women, Domestic Violence. Okay, that's what they're. That's what is falling apart.
Like a women's
Maybe you could correct me. It's like a domestic violence treaty that's been adopted internationally.
So hang on. I mean,
please correct me if I'm wrong.
But the Eastern European government collapses over the issue of beating their wives.
It's very Lindy right now.
All right. So this is the Google machine, so this is going to be rough. But what's happened essentially is there's been grenades exploding in Oslo yesterday or 2 days ago. Do you remember?
I think it's
Wednesday
two
morning
days
or
ago.
something. Yeah. Which is, it's been memed about the Swedish conditions because this is stuff that has literally happened in Sweden earlier. So we're now sort of reaching some of the things that people have been warning about, but at the same time not doing anything about for the past couple of years. So 3 miners have been apprehended after explosions in Oslo. According to the Norwegian Broadcasting's information, 3 miners have been brought in after grenades exploded on Bislett Tuesday night. Police say this is about a sort of settlement, a gang war, essentially, between existing criminals. But they're all minors, and we've talked about youth crime in Oslo extensively before. And this is something that, a lot of people were saying, it's going the right way. But this is something quite extreme. Things like that haven't happened in a while, and certainly not in the youth. There have been incidents where bigger, more organized crime rings have been doing violence, but this is, it involves minors, which is frightening.
It does mirror the Swedish incidents, because they had a lot of grenades and stuff. We had Leo on talking about it. It's been a while ago.
Yeah.
Now, but maybe you could read more up on the details, but I did read somewhere that they basically paid them like 30,000 NOK each or something for this.
Oh, really?
I mean, it sort of solves there's like the incentive, I think, to use quote unquote child soldiers for this gang war stuff. It's like really good. I'm just saying this in a sort of calculating way.
I mean, from the perspective of the criminals,
do it, because I often sit and think about like the modern world, and if you watched films like John Wick and these films about assassins or something, like you try to pay somebody to kill someone for you. I've always thought about it from this sort of prisoner's dilemma problem. Essentially, it's that okay, they want a really high payday for it because they risk lifetime in prison, for example.
Yeah.
They might risk their own life, so you might have to pay them enough so that they can retire permanently. But if you just pay them, right, then they always have an incentive to just take the money and scram.
Sure.
Right, because if they do it for you, you're equally as guilty as them, and they can just rat on you and say that, well, there's no consumer protections for you, like for these sort of like in the John Wick universe or whatever, that they're going to guarantee that you get the hit. So you pay
John
them
Wick has like the whole society thing, I guess, which is like the guild or something that's supposed to.
So you pay an assassin $1 million, and they just run away with that money. Even if you pay them half up front or something,
what are you going to do? Call the cops? Right?
Then you have to pay, get another assassin to get that assassin to get that money back. And so it's a really difficult kind of conundrum you get into, where the incentive for them is just to run away. But if you can use like a minor, and you pay them, like to them it's like a lot of money. To you it's like just shit. It's like pocket money for you. But for them it's like, okay, 30,000 NOK, that's the equivalent of maybe $3,000. That's pretty big for a 12-year-old. So that you can buy a lot of Pokemon cards and chewing gum or something for it. Maybe a Nintendo Switch and a new bicycle or something. So okay, you get them to throw a hand grenade into a locale, and if they get caught, then they're going to get reduced sentencing because they're minors, so they'll be back on the street again. That's like the Offspring what is that, the Offspring song, Come Out and Play or something. You say if you're if you won't be if you're underage, you won't be doing any time. That's the lyrics line. So it's the incentive, what you can get out of very little money. The only problem is that the expertise of these kids, they don't know what the hell they're doing. So
no, and one of the grenades hadn't been detonated. So here's a video of the police actually having to like detonate it, for safety, because they couldn't approach it in any way. Yeah, it's just sort of like, in a sense, flailing violence in a bit, in a way of putting it. But it is organized in the sense that, let me just bring this up and try to translate it. The pomegranate explosion. No, just the grenade explosion. I love Google Translate. Let's see here. They fear an escalation because this is an ongoing conflict, apparently, in like some criminal environment. It appears this is an ongoing conflict, so police work is so our police work has to be preventative to prevent an escalation and possibly new events like this. Are you afraid something new can happen? There is a concern that we have when we look at the history, he says. The police do not want to go into any detail about what kind of conflict is being talked about. Well, that makes sense because they don't want to give out information to the criminals. The two 13-year-old boys who were brought in early Tuesday morning after the explosion on Wednesday after the explosion on Tuesday night has still not been questioned. He also says that they're now placed within the confines of the child welfare, where police have limited control of their movements. Why would they do that? Is that something they're required to do?
Oh, good question. Yeah.
Interesting. Both of these boys still have a status of being accused. So maybe the police is not allowed to... maybe you have to be like 15, 16 for the police to detain you, I guess. Police believe the place of the crime was not randomly selected and the goal was to perform it in a commercial space. Interesting. The council does not want to go into more detail on what kind of place this is. Earlier Thursday, police stated that two 15-year-old boys who were arrested on Wednesday night, charged with complicity, have been released. After the questioning on Wednesday night, police considered there's not enough dangers that the 15-year-olds can destroy any evidence, and their role in this case make it not a proportionate response to imprison them. So they might have known something, but they might not be complicit. Also, Sigmund, who is a defender for one of the 15-year-olds, will not answer how our client stands to the charge. She writes in an SMS that she will not comment on any of this for the sake of her client, who is 15 years old. Let's see here. Eric Rizz Dogger, who is the defendant of the other 15-year-old, also does not want to comment on the case, and makes sense because they're 15 years old. That's the legally correct thing to do, I suppose. Tied to kidnapping, the police are investigating whether the attack was a so-called crime as a service. This is what you were talking about. Case. This is that meaning that someone has taken on a breach of violence through payment. According to the Broadcasting Central's information, it's being investigated if the attack could be connected to the criminal Foxtrot network and to a kidnapping that happened in Oslo last week.
I don't know if it's the translation, but like crime as a service, it sounds awfully corporate.
They actually use the word crime as a service in the Norwegian article, so I guess this is a word or a saying that's being used multiple places.
Newspeak, we have
Newspeak,
software as a service, like platform.
You could have just said that this was ordered, the hit was ordered or whatever, but no, we have to call it crime as a service. Recruited on the internet. The police director Håkon Skolstad say that they see a development where children are recruited into crime through digital platforms. Now, this is what you need to be building, Path. It's not about the SaaS anymore. It's about the C.
Light bulbs.
Yeah,
light bulbs are going up here. This is an untapped market.
It's the criminal to criminal crime as a service platforms. That's where the boom
C2C market is huge. We're taking on seed investors.
Yeah.
You don't have to go through TikTok and try to groom them on Discord servers or something. You can just get directly in contact with the miners to order hits at efficient prices.
I can already see the sort of landing page advertising that. Why scroll through TikTok and groom miners when you can just access our database?
Yeah, we've pre-groomed, pre-selected good radicalized miners.
Yeah, miners. Can't even do shakedowns anymore. You have to subscribe to Mafia Plus. The digital platforms create new opportunities for criminals to access a wide addition of children and young people. How are these children and young people recruited? the children move in many digital platforms. Through these platforms, they're exposed to films with very serious content, such as violence, injury, in many cases, maybe live killings. He explains that over time it becomes almost a normality to see murder and violence being exercised, and as the resilience of the children to be able to join the type of action eventually will be weakened. Much of this recruitment is happening on closed platforms. Police might not even know that they exist on the dark web, says the police director, adding, "We must turn our efforts now and increase the resilience of children through physical meetings we have with them." I mean, I'm not sort of well versed in this, but it seems kind of weird to be like, oh yeah, because you watch the live, you're watching live leak videos, which means you're going to turn into a criminal. Because that's pretty much with, like, I talked about, how Balkans can be unstable because I grew up with a lot of them. That was like their pastime. It was just like watching people, get killed on the internet. And I'm not saying they turned out to be like model citizens necessarily, but a lot of them at least turned out okay, right? So while it might be a factor, I think there's a certain sense that, as we've talked about before when we covered this, that, the criminal sort of society, I suppose, or the underbelly, if you could call it that, for the youths is something that everyone is aware of, right? And you get recruited through knowing someone or like knowing about it and having the interest to, risk it, right? Because you'll always know, you have a friend whose brother is connected with some guys, right? So you know who to talk to if you're interested. But if you're in a society or in a subculture which doesn't have a lot of crime, then you don't know anyone to talk to, right?
Yeah, I mean, with this stuff, it sounds like they're almost getting ads for crime, organized crime on
they might,
Facebook or
for all I
something.
know, right?
Which this is not implausible at all, by the way. Like the way Facebook operates, I would not be surprised. Like with the type of groups that I've gotten suggested, to me, let's say like you've watched, 3 cartel execution videos or something, and like they okay, this is what you're interested in. Maybe you want to make some money on the side.
Sure. I mean, that might actually be happening. Yeah, Telegram groups is more likely, but that is also, you're back to sort of more long-term grooming, right? This sort of weird, like, oh, you watch live leak videos and then you become desensitized to violence. You have to watch a lot of live leak videos to take that step. But then again, the kids might be watching a lot of live leak videos, right? On Thursday morning, the proposal presented by the Oslo City Council was the topic in a political quarter, which is like the 15 minutes on the radio or something. Labour Party group leader Martha Schoening Lund believes that the proposal the cut proposal can have consequences for children and young people. The cut proposal meaning cut in the budget, linking this to the explosion in Oslo. She's worried that more young people are falling into crime. This is about a massive cut to the boroughs of about 500 million Norwegian kroner, and we know is going to go just to prevention. So I have to say something, she says. The financial city councillor, Holstein Bjørke, says that it is the job of politicians to make sure that the children and young people do not end up in that type of crime. I cannot guarantee that this cut will not affect services. I would have been arrogant to say so, but our job is to make sure that it goes beyond the services of people, at least. That this cut harms the services we bring to people, and make sure it harms the services to the least amount of people as possible. That's the only way I can translate that. He also rejects the sort of play from Labour Party and points out that actually primary school budgets are increasing. So it's not like the money is just disappearing, I guess. But it's kind of
more money for them programs.
Well, sure, yeah, that's the thing. We're talking about money for programs, but as we've talked about, at some point, and I guess it would be interesting to see, because the radical experiment that has been going on in Oslo is, boots on the ground policing. And it would be interesting to know what the effects of that have been.
Yeah.
And if they plan to ramp that up. But who's to say? I'm not sure if we have anything more to comment here, but it's scary that it's getting to this level.
You'd always hoped it wouldn't go this far, but it should be a wake-up call at least. It's probably a good wake-up call if you don't have too many casualties, but the shock and awe of the grenades going off should tip some people off, I think.
Yeah. All right, let's hop back real quick to the wheel here. We're getting out of topics, but we'll spin it nonetheless. We are now slaves to the wheel. And we hit Twitter bookmarks. Which one do we want to bring up? Do you want cringe or tech, Logic Path?
Cringe.
Let's do cringe. This is semi-related to Charlie Kirk, the topic we had on the... But Twitter user Cold Healing has been providing me with a lot of good stuff from Instagram and TikTok, as he, she, they, I think it's multiple people, are bound to do. This is from an Instagram post for someone sort of like casually in the background streaming Charlie Kirk debate videos. I should have had Charlie on out loud before, but he's on regularly now. Much better than K-pop Demon Hunters music while we clean. So the kids, they're stacking the dishwasher and they're listening to
what's going on here, man? It's
we could be playing music, but no, we have to listen to Charlie Kirk owning the libs.
I just had underestimated like how much I don't know if you want to call it grassroots or something, but how many people just have, like, this is the media they watch, right? Their kids are exposed to it. I'm not saying it's wrong or anything, but I saw this clip on Twitter with this young girl who was like rushing up to Dan Bongino to get an autograph or something. Like, it just never struck me that this is something they, if you're a kid,
who's your hero?
And you're watching like Joe Rogan on the libs or something. That's your childhood hero. It's, I know some people like in America listen to talk radio when they were kids, like Rush Limbaugh or something, and they had some affinity for that. But it just never struck me that this is like, I'm not saying it's inappropriate for kids. I just thought that this is like lame for them.
Did this happen in Europe as much? I'm trying to think of like, man, my son really wants to meet. We talked about Emmanuel Macron, right? I wish, I wish one day I could meet Emmanuel Macron and kiss his hand or something, right? You're my greatest hero.
That's very online, I think. But
Macron, I think it would have to be even more online.
I think Macron has missed that, but maybe like these some of these TikTok politicians, like in the youth wing of the Progress Party, or like the Conservatives or something. It seems like those guys have much more of a foothold with young people, so that I think that's comparable maybe to Charlie Kirk, like in Norway, guys like Simen Velle and guys like that, who they keep showing up and talking about stuff, and they know who they are, so they'd probably be stopped in the street or something.
Yeah, and it's fair to say, we talked about it last week as well. Kirk's reach with younger people was greater, but I mean, in this specific case, this is a mother, bringing it into her children. Or her home in that sense.
But like
I don't know, I just listen to like 3+ hours Elder Scrolls review videos when I do the dishes. That's what I do. So pick your poison, I guess. I like mine better than listening to Charlie Kirk owning the libs. I try not to listen.
So for context, K-pop Demon Hunters is a Netflix.
It's a Netflix
show.
thing.
Okay,
I'm glad.
I didn't get that immediately.
No, it's a Netflix thing. It's when you might have your daughter's too young, right? But
no, absolutely not. She is exposed to Netflix, but it's like this is like too old, I think, for her stuff. Like,
But
my
that's what I
daughter's
mean. Your
just watches
daughter's
like
too young, right?
Gabby's Dollhouse or some
Yeah.
like
If
some of that
if she
lame
was
stuff.
like a couple of years older, you would have been caught up in this, right? It's that like Frozen thing, like once they
Yeah,
hit
I
a
see.
certain age, right?
I've been
All right.
because we have Netflix, and I try to like monitor the stuff that's going on there to see if there's like
Sure.
what I think is the more wholesome stuff and what's like the more subversive subversive shows, right?
Yeah.
I think the best shows are the shows that are like not with human beings at all, like if it's just some kind of animated animals or something, because then they really can just
I
circumvent all
understand.
of
Yeah.
the political correctness. Some show my daughter likes. It's called Ogie Ogie or something. It's just about like this French animated show with cats.
Yeah.
There's like they don't have to deal with anything PC stuff. But yeah, like popular
Just keeps them
shows.
away from the
Yeah.
cocoa melon stuff. Like that's
Yeah,
insane.
that's so
Yeah.
so annoying. I
And it's
mean,
like surgically optimized to keep your child's attention for as long as possible. It's just it's
it
crazy.
is, and it is like very pedagogical and everything. But they bring in the rainbow families, which is just really lame. I really don't like it. Like one of these kids has like two dads. He's got a black and a white dad. So it's like this kind of Pete Buttigieg type family thing that they have going. It's just really lame. I
think it's because Coco Melon is British, right? So they're subject to the draconian dystopian laws.
Maybe it is. I have no clue. There's just so many things I hate about the show. I hate the songs. I hate the animations. I don't like the rainbow families or anything like that. I like the pedagogical stuff is like fine, but generally just like the general feel of it, I don't care for at all.
This is another one related to the first one. A woman on Instagram once more, provided by Cold Healing, saying that in a world wanting to be more like Taylor Swift, I want to be more like Erica Kirk, which is a swing and a miss if I ever saw one, because Erica Kirk was Taylor Swift in a sense, or is Taylor Swift. They're both girl bosses.
She has two kids, so you'll give the W to Erica Kirk.
Fair enough, but I mean, give it some time. Swift just got engaged, right?
Yeah, she's getting autist kids though. I think she's like our age
Probably,
plus
yeah.
or something.
Yeah. But yes, tell your daughters to be more like Erica Kirk. That'll solve it. Okay,
there's a lot of these tweets that are the cringe is just never ending with this stuff. I get that people want to show support and everything, but it is like this engagement baity stuff where it's like, oh yeah, Erica Kirk just ended feminism for which is feminism is basically
the one
over
guy
now.
posting, you shared that like, oh, you have no idea what you've unleashed or something because now Erica Kirk is in charge, and I was like, what does that mean? That's like some anime bullshit when you take off the like training weights. Like, is that what she was doing? She's been like playing at 50% power, and now she's angry.
She was actually the brains behind TPUSA the whole time, right? Now it's going into full force. It's just nonsensical.
I mean, condolences and everything, but it's just so weird. Some of the reactions to this, or some of the saber rattling, I suppose.
Yeah. There's that, but I mean, as like it's been 2 weeks now, and as things are settling down, at least what I'm seeing on social media is like a general sort of blackpilling reaction, at least across the pond.
Nothing happens.
It's because nothing ever happens. In particular, there hasn't been any kind of solid government response. It's just like these kind of nonsensical gestures, like they're going to mint Charlie Kirk's face on pennies or whatever, some kind of coin that are going to have his face on them.
Say his name,
he's getting his he's getting like his custom drink as the menu item on Starbucks, which is like a double mint vanilla something like this. Starbucks is just so nonsensical to me. Like, what even is this stuff? When Americans describe it to me, like, what I'm going to have Starbucks, and they're like, is this even coffee? Like, what is even going on here? This is double minted vanilla mochachinos.
Actually, we're on topic, so we might as well get this over with. So, state media Norway has gotten some criticism for, well, kind of both ways. There were some people, pushing for the televisation of Charlie Kirk's funeral on Norwegian state media, which I found absolutely insane. Like, there's no reason for that. Like, why should they? We don't televise a lot of American stuff. Why should we televise that? But of course, it's a very high profile thing. And so they ended up doing it, which means that they essentially, like, they didn't send reporters or anything, because again, that would be silly. They essentially just bought the rights to televising.
Didn't they?
It.
No, I think I actually think they had one guy on the ground who asked Elon Musk some questions.
Oh yeah, sorry, never mind. They did actually send one guy. My bad. But they didn't send any camera crews. Other than that, which is to say why they are in trouble now, because essentially they just bought the sort of like streaming or like the licensing rights to televise this, right? And what was televised in Norwegian state media was basically the entire thing, by Turning Point USA, right? And so now they're in hot water with people saying that, why, essentially, they're saying that the sort of the journalistic context was too weak, is the criticism. So there's this hearing of like 5.5 hours of a hearing for the broadcasting council decide whether or not this this should be sort of like ratified, or if they should do like some, I guess, reparations in some sense. Because there's been over 1,000 letters of like complaint about this. Now, among them was because this was produced by Turning Point, right? And it lasted so long. It's a kind of weird sort of like what they're targeting, but they're specifically targeting that this was produced by Turning Point, the organization. It wasn't like BBC or something, or even CNN or Fox even, right? So it's just, they're saying it's problematic. I don't know, like that's the most stupid reason, right, to pearl clutch about like, oh, they're showing Christianity on American TV. Like, the whole thing, in my opinion, was very gaudy and American, but that they're gaudy Americans. So I would rather say that it's just like irrelevant. That would be the argument. It's a politically irrelevant thing for our state media to get mixed up in.
Yeah. Well, I think they're running into a lot of conflicting problems, because like you showed me that one guy who was like saying he had called in repeatedly to Norwegian state media crying about why aren't they showing Charlie Kirk's funeral.
Yeah.
And anything like that. So yeah, it's like damned if you do.
Yeah,
damned
the poor
if you
person
don't.
on the other end didn't know, naturally.
And
like, what are you talking about?
but there's also the kind of the viewership incentive there, because it's like a very
Sure.
What do you
but
call
it's,
it? Like
it's
attention
Norwegian state
grabbing.
media. It shouldn't have a viewership incentive because we pay it over our taxes.
Yeah, exactly. So, but yeah, I guess the Steelman position is that this funeral service was more or less a campaign event, and I don't think I'm alone in saying that. I think they squeezed every drop out of this.
I agree.
Like how much political campaigghing. It didn't feel like a funeral service at all. It was like this kind of mega church, Trump 2028 or something campaign, just to get all the politicians in there to do their spiels. And I mean, it was kind of as essentially American and alien to a lot of people. So if you're just running it, you sort of just feel like it just feels like you're running a campaign event for For the Trump admin in a sense. So it's understandable if people are, you don't like that or you're objecting to Trump. You don't want your state media to just show that like without any context to it. But yeah, I mean, it was good television. It's just kind of an insane thing, honestly, to watch the. I didn't watch all of it. I watched some select speeches, but it does just feel like they never stopped campaigning. After they won the election, it just kind of goes on and on there. And I don't know what else is there to say. It was impressive that they could pull this off as soon after the. After
I mean,
stopped,
the MAGA machine must have been working overtime, I suppose.
To
pull this off. Before we close out here of this article, I will reiterate that we've talked about this before, but this woman in the middle, load-bearing bureaucratic physiognomy in Norwegian state, very important. Without her, everything collapses. Just to bring it sort of to its full culmination, I guess, is that we didn't get to do this last week, or it was this week, sorry. This Sunday in Oslo and in Bergen and in various cities in Norway, there was produced a memorial service for, what's her name? Irina, he doesn't say the last name, sorry. Irina, blah, blah, blah. What's her name?
After you go.
Irina Sarutska, the woman who was unfortunately killed in North Carolina or something? South Carolina?
Yeah.
North Carolina. And of course, Charlie Kirk. A strange, unless you're online, this is a very strange memorial section. Like, what does these people have to do with each other? Well, nothing really. Why are they here in Norway? I don't know, right? I would criticize this, and I've gotten some pushback in real life for that. I would say that this is just as irrelevant as doing BLM protests when George Floyd was killed, in my opinion. And it's just as irrelevant to our politics. This guy's just live streaming the memorial service. There's some people showing up. I'm not sure if they're showing up on purpose or if they even know what they're getting to, or if they're just walking around. Let's see if we can see how many people turn up. Coming and going. Yeah.
Yeah, I get the memorial service stuff, but coupling these two together is just extremely online. Because they are essentially separate events. You could try to see, sort of connected by, one was seemed to be more of a political assassination. The other one was just you had like a black kind of crackhead or something.
Yeah.
Which you live in these types of, they are super exaggerating a bit, but a lot of these, especially these states like Mississippi, this kind of high black population states, are really dangerous to be in, especially on public transportation. It's usually, that's what I thought when
statistically, right?
Yeah, when I was in the United States as well, that I regret not renting a car, to be honest, because I went by public transportation, and this was in like places like Colorado, and Oklahoma and stuff. So, but even there, I never felt safe. I don't go to sleep, if I'm, in Scandinavia, I go to sleep on the bus, but I would just never do that in the United States. There's just so many sketch characters that take the bus.
Yeah.
For whatever reason, it's just it seems to be an agreed upon fact that if you have to take the bus, you're really poor, or there's just something wrong with you. Like you've had your license revoked, you can't get one for whatever reason. I mean, certain states, they even allow you to drive without license plates as long as you drive within the state border. So it's very little, few reasons that you have to take the bus. You deal with like the like the taxi driver kind of like scum of the earth. This is a scum of society.
Yeah.
So putting them together in that sense, it would have made sense that you'd have the like
it just gives me, we criticized and had Schadenfreude at the Norwegian Democrats, bombing out at the election, but this is the exact thing that I think causes them to just not gain any traction and not get people to take them seriously is doing stuff like this. It's just weird, right? And it just doesn't pertain to anyone's lives.
Yeah, it's
And
focusing on an
it attracts low value people.
That online audience is just not big enough, right? Because it becomes more of like in the United States, it's more of like a reality, like an entire, almost like a third of the country that live in these media ecosystems. But if you live in Norway, it's like being into American cars or something. Most people just don't drive them. This is like a very niche interest that a few people have. I think that's a kind of good metaphor, actually. Like people who are interested, who are like American car aficionados. They drive Cadillacs. I think there's about as many of those as you get of these Norway Democrats who are into all of American politics constantly, and they just we're going to celebrate. We're going to do the Charlie Kirk Memorial. Or
it's kind of like, you remember when we watched a little bit of that like documentary about like the Norwegian Trump supporters, and like the first grandpa or whatever we covered was this guy. He bought a Mustang, but he bought an EV Mustang because that's the easiest one to get, because that's the American car. And he had this like weird like Hearts of Iron 4 idea of how he was going to like ally with Russia and then take out China or something. It's just this weird like idiosyncratic mess of opinions, right? And realities that just don't match, and going harder on that, saying that oh yeah, but it attracts a lot of people who are interesting thinkers, and reality is that it doesn't. It's just weirdos, and as I said, low value people. And as long as the Norwegian right keep doing that, it's just going to spin its wheels in the mud. It's just going to keep degrading, essentially.
Yeah, and I think that's a kind of an issue now with the increasing popularity of populism, like across Europe, across the West in general, is that you're seeing a lot of the more parliamentary parties seem to be adopting bits and pieces of populism. Like the Christian Democrats started talking about like this kind of anti-pride rhetoric, and some of the parties are more on this kind of anti-immigrant side. So they're taking bits and pieces and mixing and matching with their old ideas. So the only thing that these kind of niche parties are left with is sort of like this blatant kind of America worship stuff. And like you said, it just attracts weirdos.
It does. Okay, final article here. We're not going to spend a lot of time on this because the article itself isn't very good. But the word is fantastic. And I want you to think about this as you go about your cushy middle-class jobs, all of you listening to us, because I assume none of you are plumbers and carpenters, because that's what we really need. You need to give up your university degree, stop being smart, and start plumbing, right? A confusing contradiction is unfolding in companies embracing generative AI tools. While workers are largely following mandates to embrace the technology, few are seeing it create real value. Consider, for instance, that the number of companies with fully AI-led processes nearly doubled last year, while AI has likewise doubled at work since 2023. Yet a recent report from the MIT Media Lab found that 95% of organizations see no measurable return on their investment in these technologies. So much activity, so much enthusiasm, so little return. Why? Now, I'm going to say that we're taking these reports at face value here. I'm not going to go into these right now. In collaboration with Stanford Social Media Lab, our research team at BetterUp Labs has identified one possible reason. Employees are using AI tools to create low-effort, passable-looking work that ends up creating more work for their coworkers. On social media, which is increasingly clogged with low-quality AI-generated posts, this is often referred to as AI slop. In the context of work, we refer to this phenomenon as Workslop. We define Workslop as AI-generated work content that masquerades as good work, but lacks the substance to meaningfully advance a given task.
Yeah, this I think slop is the word of the year for 2025. I hope we can get a new word. If we used to white people used to say coal in the past.
AI tools become more accessible, so workers are increasingly able to quickly produce polished output, well-formatted slides, long-structured reports, seemingly articulate summaries of academic papers by non-experts, and usable code. While some employees are using this ability to polish good work, others use it to create content that is actually unhelpful, incomplete, or missing crucial context about the project at hand. The insidious effect of Workslop is that it shifts the burden of the work downstream, requiring the receiver to interpret, correct, and redo the work. In other words, it transfers the effort from creator to receiver. If you ever experienced this, you might recall the feeling of confusion after opening a document, followed by frustration. Wait, what is this exactly? Before you begin to wonder if the sender simply used AI to generate large blocks of text instead of thinking it through. If this sounds familiar, you have been workslopped. There it is. I'm not going to read anything else because they're just going to try to sell you something.
Yeah, I think this is especially a big problem in, like, if you have jobs that employ a lot of juniors, young people, or generally, like, they have like lower salary.
I mean, I have used
compounding.
In my job, I have used AI to generate reports, but that's because I'm a programmer, and they asked me to generate a report on a bunch of estimates. So I collected all the data and then made the AI sort of use that data to build the report. And then I was like, I'm not spending hours writing this. If you want anything, you can just contact me, right? I'm going to go back to writing code and get something done. Which was, internally just like a quick summary. That's more than enough, right? Just using it to basically put it in a format which makes sense for management. But if your job is to produce documents of text, right, regularly, then using AI to do that is very stupid. And you're just creating work for the person on the other end. And we have joked about that, where, like, you use AI to generate an email that gets summarized by AI in the other end, so that the person receiving it doesn't have to read it. And then it's like, well, what are we, should this workflow exist at all? Right? What's the point of this?
The dead internet at work theory.
Exactly. All right. That covers actually all of the things we wanted to talk about this week. That's not bad. We got through them all in under an hour and a half. I have worse things from my my bookmarks, but we're not going to go through that. I think we've had enough enough slop, as it were.
We've suffered enough.
We have.
Go home, rest.
Thank you, everyone, for watching. Thank you for listening. Anything you want to say before we leave, Ludwig?
No, just have a nice weekend, and we'll see you next week.
Have a nice weekend. Have a nice evening. We'll see you all next week. Bye-bye.